Okay, writers, we are now going to write a conclusion for our critical essays. Are you ready? We've said earlier in Lesson 2 that the chief function of an essay conclusion is to re-emphasize your thesis so as to convince your reader one last time. Suppose we're writing an essay whose thesis is people should not fish off of Manhattan Beach Pier. Reason 1, there's pollutants in the water that taint the fish. Reason 2, it hooks pelicans and other sea life. And reason 3, sharks are attracted by the bait to fishing spots. Now, to write a conclusion paragraph, we'll re-emphasize the thesis. But we don't want to be repetitive, so we better restate the thesis in a different way using strong words. There are 3 versions here. Which one do you prefer? Fishing should not be allowed on Manhattan Beach Pier. Number 2, there is absolutely no reason that people should be allowed to fish off of Manhattan Beach Pier. Number 3, under no circumstances should fishermen be permitted to cast their lines off of Manhattan Beach Pier. The first one is clear, but not very strong. How about the second one? It's stronger but still sounds a bit repetitive. Now the third one, I think it's the winner. Strong and not repeating the words in the thesis statement. This is what we normally do in an essay conclusion. But some writers may think this kind of conclusion is too routine, so they sometimes do more than that. They apply the idea proposed in the thesis to real life. In this case, the conclusion could also serve 2 functions: predicting what positive change would happen if what is said in the thesis takes place, and making a call to action. This is the conclusion paragraph of Stephen Hawking's essay, Public Attitudes Toward Science. Read it again and tell how the author ends his essay. In this conclusion, the author doesn't repeat the thesis. Instead, he predicts that if the public has proper understanding of science, they would be able to judge what is right and what is wrong. Here's another example. The thesis of the essay is people adopt different approaches to learning in China and the West. The author doesn't repeat the thesis in the conclusion paragraph either. This time, he proposes an action to take. Maybe we can strike a better balance between the 2 different approaches. In fact, if you still remember in Lesson 3, we talked about that there are different types of theses. Thesis of value, thesis of cause and effect, and thesis of policy. Then you realize that what many writers do in the conclusion paragraph is to use a different type of thesis to make the conclusion less routine. In the previous 2 examples, Dr. Hawking's thesis statement is the thesis of policy. Then he uses thesis of cause and effect in the conclusion, talking about the effect of educating the public about science. And Dr. Gardner's thesis statement is a thesis of fact. And he uses thesis of policy to wind up his essay. So far, we've talked about what a writer can do with essay conclusions. Here's a note of what we can't do in the conclusion paragraph. And this is very, very important. Listen carefully. You should never ever raise a new arguable idea in your essay conclusion. Why? Imagine you have spent the entire essay justifying that traditional schools cannot be replaced by online learning. Now in the conclusion paragraph, you write, I would reaffirm that traditional schools have been where hundreds of thousands of celebrities and elites step onto their glory. Therefore, they shall never be replaced, and it's still too early to take the new approach of online learning. At the first glance, it seems to be a good conclusion. But take a second look at the last sentence. It actually conveys two ideas. First, traditional schools should exist forever. Second, it's not time yet to take online learning. The first idea has been supported in the essay, but the second one is a new idea. It hasn't been justified. So it undermines the strength of the entire essay. You don't want to be so stupid, huh? Then remember, no new idea in essay conclusions.